Red Dead Redemption. Even after all these years, it's one of those games that still holds a special place in gaming history. It's more than just a cowboy game. It's a deep, emotional journey set in the fading days of the Wild West. You play as John Marston, a former outlaw, trying to leave his past behind. But of course, it's never that simple. The game's world, story, and characters are all top tier, pulling you into this incredible, open-world experience. The gunplay is smooth, with that satisfying dead-eye system that lets you slow down time and pick off targets with precision. Whether you're involved in epic shootouts or quick-draw duels, the action feels cinematic and intense. But it's not all about combat. You can spend just as much time exploring, engaging in side missions, or even playing mini-games like poker and horseshoes. The story is also a huge draw. John Marston's journey is one of redemption, family, and loyalty, and it's so well written. The characters you meet along the way, from outlaws to lawmen to settlers, are all memorable and feel like they're part of this living, breathing world. You get attached to these characters, and by the end, you're really invested in John's fate. The emotional weight of the story is one of the reasons why this game is still talked about as one of the best. The ending, without spoiling anything, is one of the most impactful and talked about conclusions in gaming. It's the kind of story that sticks with you long after you've finished it. Assassin's Creed Origins. It didn't win Game of the Year, but absolutely deserved to be in the conversation. After the series took a bit of a break, Origins came back swinging, and it basically reinvented the entire franchise. This was the game that moved Assassin's Creed from a more linear, mission-based structure to a full-blown open-world RPG, and it did it in style. First off, ancient Egypt as a setting? Incredible. The world they built in Origins was stunning, from the sprawling deserts to the bustling cities of Alexandria and Memphis. You could just wander around for hours, exploring tombs, pyramids, and hidden secrets. The amount of detail they put into recreating Egypt was mind-blowing, and it felt like you were actually stepping into history. Plus, playing as the first assassin was a breath of fresh air. He was such a well-rounded character, with a personal story that drove the whole plot forward in a meaningful way. The combat system was also completely overhauled. Gone were the days of just counter-killing everything in sight. Origins introduced a more dynamic, skill-based combat system that required you to dodge, block, and actually strategize during fights. It felt much more engaging and challenging compared to the older games. They also introduced RPG elements like leveling up, skill trees, and loot, which added a ton of depth to the gameplay. But here's the thing. 2017 was a ridiculously stacked year for gaming. Rise of the Tomb Raider. This game really took me by surprise in the best way possible. I mean, I knew going in it was going to be a solid game, but it actually exceeded my expectations on so many levels. First off, the environments are stunning. Every single location feels meticulously crafted, from the frozen Siberian mountains to the hidden tombs. You really feel like you're on this epic adventure with Lara. I found myself just stopping to take in the views at times, which isn't something I do often in action games. And speaking of action, the combat and stealth mechanics are incredibly satisfying. You get this perfect blend of intense firefights, sneaky takedowns, and crafting that just keeps you engaged throughout. There's this real sense of progression, too. By the end of the game, I felt like Lara had grown so much, not just as a character, but in terms of abilities. You can craft your own explosives, improve your gear, and upgrade your skills, so it feels like you're always evolving. The game nails that feeling of being alone in the wilderness. There were plenty of moments where I felt like Lara was up against impossible odds, but her resilience kept pushing her forward. There's something really inspiring about that. It's like you're constantly in survival mode, scavenging for resources, battling enemies, and fighting the elements. I have to say, the tombs themselves are a standout. They're optional, but trust me, they're worth exploring. Some of the puzzles had me scratching my head for a while, but that moment of solving them is so satisfying. Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. This game is seriously underrated and deserves way more love. Imagine an open-world action game set in the bustling streets of Hong Kong, where you play as an undercover cop tangled up in the city's dangerous criminal underworld. It's like GTA, but with a unique twist that really sets it apart. And let's not forget the driving. Sleeping Dogs has some of the most fun driving mechanics out there. It's super arcadey, and you can do crazy stunts, hijack cars on the go, and even ram other cars off the road. There's something so satisfying about zooming through the city, dodging traffic, and knowing you can hop out at any time to start a fistfight. The city is alive with neon lights, crowded markets, and tons of little side activities that make it feel so authentic. You can go sing karaoke. Yes, karaoke. Try your luck at street races, or just cruise around and soak in the atmosphere. The developers did a fantastic job capturing the vibe of Hong Kong, and it's a city you actually want to explore. One of the best parts of Sleeping Dogs is the hand-to-hand combat. It's like a martial arts movie come to life. You're throwing punches, countering moves, and using your environment in the coolest ways. You can slam enemies into fish tanks, toss them off balconies, and even use random objects around you to gain the upper hand. So, if you're into action games with a great story and a city that feels alive and vibrant, Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition is absolutely worth checking out. Black Myth Wukong. You know, when I first heard about this game, I wasn't sure what to expect, but the moment I saw the gameplay, it completely blew me away. This game is such a breath of fresh air in the action RPG genre, blending Chinese mythology with some seriously stunning visuals. You can tell the developers at Game Science have poured their hearts into this project, and it really shows. The main thing that struck me was how alive the world feels. The environments are rich, almost dreamlike, with incredible attention to detail. Whether it's a dense forest or ancient ruins, everything feels like it has history, like it's part of this vast, mythical landscape. And don't even get me started on the creature designs. Some of these enemies look straight out of Legends, but with a fresh, modern twist that makes them both terrifying and beautiful. As Wukong, you have access to a lot of cool abilities. And it's not just about fighting. There's a real sense of strategy involved. You can transform into different creatures and use their powers to outsmart enemies, which adds such a dynamic element to combat. It's not just about mashing buttons, but thinking on your feet. Every battle feels intense, like you're actually facing off against these legendary foes. But it's not all about combat. The story itself seems to be really captivating, diving deep into the lore of Journey to the West. The way the narrative is woven into the gameplay, with cutscenes and dialogue, really draws you in. Far Cry Primal. If you've played other Far Cry games, you might be expecting guns, explosions, and chaotic mayhem, right? Well, throw all of that out the window because this time, we're stepping way back in time, like 10,000 years back. Instead of modern weaponry and cars, you're rocking spears, bows, and a few other prehistoric tools that make you feel like a true Stone Age warrior. And honestly, it's such a refreshing change. There's something incredibly satisfying about hunting with a bow you crafted yourself, or sneaking through tall grass with a spear in hand, ready to take down a woolly mammoth. You feel connected to the land in a way that's hard to describe. You've got lush forests, snow-capped mountains, and rivers that glimmer in the sunlight. And it's alive with creatures you'd expect in the Stone Age. Saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, bears, you name it, it's probably roaming around. One of the coolest parts of the game is the beast taming. Yes, you can actually tame animals. Imagine being followed by your very own saber-toothed tiger, or having a giant bear at your side, ready to wreck anything that crosses your path. It's as awesome as it sounds. The game lets you bond with these creatures, and they're not just tools. They feel like companions. Honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking if you lose one in battle. What I love about Far Cry Primal is how it makes survival feel primal. You're not just running and gunning, you're scavenging, crafting, and fighting for every inch of progress. Ghost of Tsushima. From the moment you start playing, it just feels like you're stepping into this beautifully crafted world. The first thing that really grabbed me was the landscape. The island of Tsushima is stunning, with these rolling hills, forests, and temples scattered all around. And the way the wind guides you instead of using a mini-map, that was such a cool touch. It makes you feel like you're part of the world, not just playing a game. The combat is another thing that I couldn't stop thinking about. It's so fluid and satisfying. At first, I was a bit nervous because samurai combat can be tricky, but the way it's designed here feels so intuitive. You switch between stances depending on who you're fighting, and it just flows so well. Every sword fight feels like it has weight. There were times when I would stop and challenge a group of enemies to a standoff, just because it felt so epic. You literally feel like a samurai. Speaking of feeling like a samurai, The story really pulls you in. It's all about Jin Sakai and his struggle between upholding the samurai code and doing what needs to be done to save his people. It gets you thinking, you know? Like, what would you do in his shoes? Would you stick to the rules or adapt to survive? The game really leans into that inner conflict, and I found myself getting attached to Jin and the other characters, especially his uncle. The emotional moments hit hard, and let's not forget the duels. Oh man, the duels. Some of the most intense moments in the game for sure. You face off against these really skilled enemies. Horizon Zero Dawn. You ever play a game that completely pulls you into its world and makes you forget time exists? From the very start, it hit me with its vast open world and beautiful landscapes. It's like stepping into a future where nature and machines are in this strange yet fascinating balance. The contrast of lush forests, snowy mountains, and decaying remnants of the old world just blew me away. I'd find myself stopping, not to complete a mission, but just to take in the view. What really pulled me in was Aloy, the main character. She's strong, independent, and driven, but still relatable. Her journey to uncover the truth about her past kept me hooked, and I felt a connection with her that not many games manage to achieve. Every interaction, every choice made me feel like I was walking her path, not just controlling her through a screen. The machines in Horizon are some of the most unique enemies I've ever encountered. They're massive, unpredictable, and have this alien feel to them, yet they belong perfectly in this world. Each machine required a different approach, forcing me to think and adapt. It never felt repetitive. Instead, it kept things fresh, especially when you take down something huge like a Thunderjaw. I remember the first time I did, and it felt like a massive victory. The combat made me feel like a hunter, not just a fighter, and that added a layer of depth I really appreciated. The story also has a lot going for it. There's mystery, there's emotion, and there's this haunting sense of loss throughout the game. Gears 5. Even if you're new to the Gears series, trust me, Gears 5 is an amazing place to jump in. It's got everything you'd want in a blockbuster game, great characters, intense firefights, and a world that's equal parts beautiful and brutal. The combat in Gears 5 feels incredibly smooth, and every gunfight has that intense, cover-based strategy that makes Gears so satisfying. Popping out from cover, landing that perfect headshot, or getting up close and personal with the Lancer's chainsaw never gets old. There's something just downright satisfying about how combat feels here. Each weapon has a unique kick to it, so you're never just mindlessly firing away. It's all about timing and positioning. Plus, with the addition of Jack, your handy little drone buddy, you get some new abilities that mix things up in fun ways. He can cloak you, zap enemies, and even fetch items, so he's a true lifesaver in tight spots. And let's take a second to appreciate the world. Gears 5 introduces these open-world sections where you can explore on this sweet vehicle called the Skiff. Just zipping across the snowy tundra or the desert sands is a vibe all on its own. The world feels alive and dynamic, with lots of cool, hidden places to discover. It's not exactly a fully open world, but it's enough to let you roam around and soak in the atmosphere, and it really breaks up the action nicely. You're not just going from one big fight to the next. You actually have time to breathe, explore, and take in some amazing views. The story here actually has some serious depth. Demon's Souls. The world of this game is jaw-dropping, especially in the remake for the PS5. You step into this dark, eerie kingdom of Boletaria, and right away, the atmosphere pulls you in. Each area has this unique vibe, from creepy, foggy swamps to towering castles and fiery caverns. One thing that really stands out in Demon's Souls is how it doesn't hold your hand at all. There's no big tutorial here. Just you, your sword, and the mystery of Boletaria. That might sound intimidating, but honestly, it's what makes this game so memorable. You're learning as you go, and every little discovery feels like a personal victory. And when you finally figure out a tricky pattern or beat a boss that felt impossible, that's one of the most satisfying feelings in gaming. And speaking of bosses, Demon's Souls has some of the best. Each one is unique, creepy, and requires you to stay on your toes and really study their moves. You'll probably get your butt kicked a few times or a dozen times, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. Each boss fight feels like a grand event. There's this tension in the air, and you're just waiting to see what insane move they're going to throw at you next. But when you finally bring one down, the victory feels so sweet, like you've just accomplished something epic. The game's mechanics are simple, but feel just right. It's not about flashy combos or crazy powers. It's about timing, patience, and learning from every mistake.